Okay, Adobe topping analyst estimates in its latest quarter. Of course, that stock's been a dog this year, underperforming other tech peers. Let's get more from Saket Kalia, senior analyst at Barclays. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You reckon that this was something of a milestone quarter. Give us your thesis, please.
Yes. Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me. I agree, Andy. I think this was a milestone quarter, really for a couple of reasons. I think most importantly, Adobe was able to show that their AI business, really anchored by Firefly and Gen Studio and some of the other great AI products that they're putting out, is really performing ahead of expectations. Probably the most important number that they put out was that product portfolio, the AI first product portfolio in aggregate, doubled in just 2 quarters. You know, if you put this into context of just in the investor sentiment we've seen so far, you've had bears kind of talk about existential risk, right, for a company that's been around for the better part of 40 years. And now you're really seeing them start to monetize this AI opportunity and really participate in it. And I think that if Adobe can continue to show that momentum, you could see some really good upside to numbers, and I think most importantly to the multiple here. So that's why we like it.
Hi, Saket, it's Paul Harris. I just have a couple of questions. One, do you think that Adobe kind of overemphasized AI going into the last several quarters, as opposed to kind of taking a backseat and saying, yes, we're working on it? And I think analysts had very high expectations when you look at some of the numbers on their AI stuff. And the second thing is that, do you think they were restricted in making an acquisition? Do you think they need to make more acquisitions to kind of grow their business?
Yeah, thanks for the questions, Paul. So, last year, I think there were really high expectations around what Adobe can do with Firefly. But you got to remember, this management team is very thoughtful. They don't put the cart before the horse. And what we saw was really a focus on driving engagement, right? Not necessarily monetization. The monetization piece is really what's starting now. So I would argue that last year is when a lot of bulls were dreaming the dream on what AI could be. But I think this team really wanted to first focus on usage and growing engagement first before kind of focusing on monetization. Now we're seeing that monetization. That's why you're seeing the focus come from this team, I think is the first part of that question. The second part on M&A, we all remember the Adobe's proposed acquisition, Figma, which eventually fell through. Figma, of course, had a very, very successful IPO recently. Listen, this Adobe team has talked about aspiring to double-digit organic growth on the top line with faster EPS growth. And I think that's possible to do organically, particularly as the AI business here grows as a percentage of total.
Just one rhetorical question I have was, why would you own this stock, though, when there still are questions about what inroads competitors will achieve as they build similar tools? Would it not be better to steer clear of this one until it's more apparent whether Adobe can prevail?
Yeah, Andy. I mean, I think that's a fair question, and that's probably been the right call for most of this year. And there are other names, in software that I think are super interesting as well. But, what makes this interesting maybe now is, as you look at the universe of large cap software and look at double-digit growers with north of 40% EBIT margins, most of them are trading in the 20 plus times PE range, if not closer to 30. This is trading at 15, almost half of that. So in large cap software, this is one that offers a particularly interesting risk reward profile in my view. You're absolutely right, though. This is a little bit of an uphill battle. This has been an uphill battle, and it's not going to just take one quarter to change that battle. But you do have momentum here building. And so, particularly as we go into next year with seeing whether Firefly and AI can be additive to this business, if that's a narrative that Adobe can prove, I think you could see this multiple maybe start to market a little bit, and that's the opportunity. Does it require patience? Absolutely. Is there going to be daily news in the AI space? For sure. But I think that there's a story that's starting to emerge here a little bit for Adobe, where they've got a leading editing tool with Creative Cloud that sort of becomes your cockpit, right, for AI that integrates with a bunch of third-party tools. You've got commercial safety, which I think is going to become increasingly important, and growing usage of Firefly. So there could be some momentum building here. That's why maybe this is worth a look going into year end, in our view.
Is this irrelevant? Adobe doesn't pay a dividend, but of course Apple does. Would it reassure investors if Adobe said, look, we've got this solid business, we've got this solid lock on commercial customers, we're going to pay a dividend?
You know, that's an interesting point. One of the things that, in terms of shareholder return, that I would just note about Adobe, remember, this is a company that last year bought back 10 billion of stock.
Wow.
And the year before that, I mean, bought back about half that. So they're absolutely, this is a programmatic buyer. They've also been opportunistic. We're forecasting almost 11 billion of buyback this year. So, you know, I think that part of that EPS growth formula, growing faster than revenue, is going to be a decline in share count. So I don't think that this company necessarily needs to pay a dividend. I think they need to show that they can grow double digits sustainably with faster EPS growth. That, I think, is going to be the key to success on this stock.
And we should remember that they had this big loyal customer base who've been using Adobe products for decades.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of users of Creative Cloud. Acrobat, I mean, you know, the word PDF, we all think about, it's a verb, you know, but really that's something, you know, you PDF a document, but really that's all coming from Adobe. So, you know, these are some hallmark products, you know, comparable to some of the biggest software tools that we all know and love. I don't think that's going to change, right? I think that what will change, though, a little bit is how AI kind of factors into it. And Adobe's kind of set themselves up as, again, the cockpit, right, for kind of adjusting any of the AI ideation that designers are doing.
I think we're going to have to jump, Saket. Thank you very much. And just so I have it straight, you have a buy rating on Adobe right now?
I do have a buy rating and a $465 price target.
$450 and
$465.
$465.
Yeah, $465. Thanks. And of course, the stock rising about 3% in the pre-market. It closed at $350 yesterday. One thing I forgot to ask you: would there be any chance of Adobe being swallowed by the likes of Google or even Microsoft to get its graphics and video chops as AI builds out?
This is a very big company. I won't comment on Microsoft and Google, but I mean, this is a great company with great assets. I think it's done a great job as a public entity. We expect it to stay that way, but so yeah, we expect it to stay that way.
Yeah, I mean, the market cap, as you note, as of yesterday, almost $150 billion. Yeah. And just finally, has there, and you may not have a handle on this, has Adobe been hit by poaching of talent? We know that there's a lot of demand for AI hotshots out there.
That's a great question, and you know, the war for talent, particularly in the AI space, I'm sure has been heating up and will continue to do so. But you know, again, if I were in the market in that space as sort of an AI engineer, I would really want to align myself with a company that I think has a long-term play in this space. And so I think Adobe offers that. You know, I think you know, they're voted very consistently one of the best employers out there in software. So you know, I like their chances in that battle.
Saket, thank you very much indeed. Saket Kalia, senior analyst at Barclays.